everyone, it's me, Sensei Hamza, back with another Scratch game tutorial. I really hope you guys enjoyed the last one, how to make the water bottle flip game. If you haven't checked it out yet, I really encourage you guys to check it out and make it so that you can show it to your family and friends. Today, we'll be creating the Flappy Bird game. If you've never played this game before, I'll attach a little clip so you guys can get an idea, and we'll get right into it. I really hope you guys enjoy. Alright everyone, so this is the game that we'll be creating together. It's pretty simple, but it's also really fun, so hopefully we'll be able to make it and you guys can spend the extra time playing it today. I hope you guys have fun. Let's do it. Alright everyone, so as I said earlier, we'll be using Scratch to create the Flappy Bird game. If you haven't done so already, you should go to scratch.mit.edu, sign in, and hit the create button in the top left corner. Once you do that, you'll get to this page. So after you do that, the first thing we need to do is get our sprites. So we don't need this cat, we could just delete the cat, and then we could hit choose a sprite. So in the game there's a bird, so let's look for a bird. The closest thing they have to the bird in the game is a parrot, so we'll use the parrot. The next thing we need to do is we need a backdrop or a stage. Let's go and look for a sky, since birds normally fly in the sky. We'll use this blue sky. Alright, so now we have the parrot and the blue sky. The only thing that we're missing now are the obstacles that the parrot has to fly through, those rectangles that you saw earlier in the clip of the actual Flappy Bird game that the parrot has to avoid. So to create those, we should probably create our own sprite, because I don't think they'll have them in the automatic sprites that they have on Scratch. So to create our own sprite, we'll go to choose a sprite and then we'll scroll up to paint. So once we hit that, it'll bring us to this screen. This is the screen that we'll use to create our own sprite. So the first thing we need to do is we need to grab a sprite that's already made and we can edit it to create our obstacle. So we could go to choose a costume, and then what I did is I used a building and edited a building so that it could look like our obstacle. So I used building F. So within building F, there's So in building F, we could copy it, we could copy building F, and we could paste it. So now we have two building Fs. We could, let's delete this because we don't really need this. Delete. So we could put the first building F up there, and the second building F down here. So now we have what looks like an obstacle, right? But let's edit a little bit more so that it looks a little nicer. So we'll bring the obstacle up a little bit, and then we'll also bring this up. So now we have an obstacle. We could also change the color. You guys can change the color to whatever you want by doing this, by going here. I'll change it to green because that's what it was in the video. So let's do that. And then we could also go here and change it to green. Okay. Alright, let's make sure they're the same. Yeah. Alright, so now you see we have a sprite. It's just one object. We can move it around, drag it around, whatever we want. So for now, let's leave it there. We should also make it a little thinner, just because we don't really need it to be that wide. Let's make it thinner. And we could drag it, we should probably put it right here, so that the bird. As you probably noticed that the bird is a little too big to fit in this hole. So what we could do to change that is we could change the size of the bird. So we can make the bird 40% of its original size. So let's do that. Now it fits, but it fits a little too easily in my opinion. It makes it too easy for the person playing the game. So let's make it 45 and let's see what happens. It's a little bit bigger. I think this is probably good. It gives the player enough room to pass through, but not too much room so that it's not too easy. Alright, so now for the code. Let's go to the code. The first thing we'll do is we're going to be putting code into the parrot sprite. So the first thing we need is when the green flag is clicked. The green flag signals the start of the game. The next thing we need to do is we need to create our variables. So the only variable we need for this game is the score. That'll keep track of the amount of times that the player avoids the obstacle. So every time they pass through this, it'll give the player a point. The next thing we need to do is we need to initialize the position of the parrot. So we'll use go to x negative 167 and y 5. So that will be our initialize. And then we already did this, but we should probably do it in the code, just so you guys could just for your understanding. Let's set the size of the parrot. Originally it was 100, but you guys saw that was too big. So let's set that to 40. Okay. And now we could use the look. We could go to looks and use show. All right. So this is all the initialized code. So this gets us to this point. So now what? Now we need a loop. So we'll use a forever loop and an if else statement. If then else. Okay. So our conditions. So the way that we'll be controlling the parrot is by using the spacebar. When we use the spacebar, the parrot will go up, and when we're not clicking the spacebar, the parrot will fall down. So let's go to sensing. And let's use key space pressed. Okay. Let's also use the repeat loop. So when the space key is pressed, we're going to change the Y of the parrot by 5. Change the Y of the parrot by 5, and we're going to do that 6 times. So let's see what that does now. Let's just see what that code does. Okay. So when we do that, the parrot goes up Y5. That's interesting. All right, but that's obviously not what we wanted to do, so we need to input a lot more code. So otherwise, if we don't press the space button, then let's change the Y by -4. So now let's try it. Now let's see what happens. So now you guys can see that when I press the space bar, it goes up 5, but when I let go, it goes down. So that's exactly what we wanted to do. This is good so far. So far, so good. All right. So the next thing we need to do is we need to add another if statement. So we'll go to control, and we'll do an if statement. That right here. And for this if statement, we need an operator. We need the OR operator. So there you go. And we also need two touching color senses. All right, so what this if statement means is that, let's change the color. Actually, no, I'll explain it first. So what this if statement means is that the way that the player will lose this game is if they hit the obstacle or if they hit the ground. So if they're touching this shade of green, or if they're touching the brown, which means that they hit the ground, then say you lost for 0.5 seconds. Okay, see, you can see that it already did that. So it jumps, and then once it hits the ground, you lost, or once we've input the rest of the code, once it hits this obstacle, then you also lost. So that's the code that we have right now. And then after you lose, you want to end the game by inputting the stop all button, which is right here. So let's test it out again. So I jump up, so if the space key is pressed, change the Y by 5, which is what it's doing right now. But if it's not, else change the Y by -4. So right now I'm not holding the space bar. And then if it's touching the green or if it's touching the brown's right here, touch the brown, say you lost for 0.5 seconds and stop the game. So all the code that we have right now works great. So the next thing, we finished the code for the parrot. The next code that we have to do is for the sprite. Let's change the name of the sprite too. I forgot to do that. So let's change the name of the sprite to obstacle. Okay. So we need to input the code for the obstacle. So for the obstacle, we need a when flag is clicked that signals when the game starts. We also need a hide button. Let's see. So we want to hide the obstacle when the game starts. And then we also want to initialize where the obstacle goes. So the obstacle will go to 220 and 0 when the game starts. Let me show you why. So the reason why we're going to x220 and we're going to y0 is because it's close to these values. So we want it to start all the way on the right of the screen. And the right of the screen, the values are close to 220 and 0, which 234 and 7 is close enough to 220 and 0, so we could use those. The next thing we need is a forever loop. So in the forever loop, we need a show button, because once it goes to 220 and 0, we now want it to show. We want to be able to see the obstacle so that we could avoid it. And then to move the obstacle, you want to use the glide button. So let's find the glide button. That'll be in motion. Glide 2.5 seconds. to negative 220, which is on the left. So now this is close to negative 220. It's negative 205, but it's still close to negative 220. And y, 0. The values might be a little different for you guys, depending on how big your screen is. So what you guys want to do is you want to do exactly what I just did. Put the obstacle all the way to the right of your screen and look at those numbers, and you can put the numbers similar. You could put some numbers that are similar to that. And then also for the left, you could also put numbers similar to that. So this is negative 198 and 21, and I'm putting negative 220 and 0. So I'll change it. I'll change it to negative. Put it in negative 210. We'll change it to negative 210. For you guys, these numbers might be a little different, so make sure you check that out first. And yeah. So let's see. So we're running this code now. Let's see what happens. So as you can see, the obstacle is gliding 2.5 seconds from all the way to the right, which is 220, 0, to the left, negative 210 and 0. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is we want to hide the obstacle again. So we want to hide the obstacle so that it could reset back here and do it again. So we're going to hide the obstacle, and then we're going to use motion, go to X, 210 and 0. So we're going actually 220 because we used 220 here. These values are supposed to be the same. So 220 and 0. And then we also want to change the score, because if the code is getting this far in, that means that the player already passed the obstacle. So if the obstacle went from here to here without the game ending, then that means that the parrot went through the obstacle, which means that we could increase the score by 1. Alright, so this is all the code for the Flappy Bird game. Let's give it a test and see if it works. Okay, so I lost that time. So it stopped the game and it told me I lost, and we now have to hit this button again to restart. So let me try it. Oh, I lost again. Not very good at this game. I hope you guys are a lot better than me. Let's try it one more time. Okay, so I made it through that time. You can see it resets. I lost that time. Alright, so this is all the code for the Flappy Bird game. I really hope you guys enjoyed making it as much as I did. If you guys really liked it and it works for you guys, I would encourage you guys to show it to your family and friends to brighten up their day. I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope, and if you're still bored and have some time on your hands, you can check out the last video if you haven't already, how to make the water bottle flip game. Check that out and make it. Also show that to your family and friends. I'll see you guys next time. Stay